Okay, so I'm going to screen share and show you guys this presentation about recruiting. So this was in Nashville where we got together. It was a mini summit. Was it earlier? Gosh, I'm so confused. Yeah, it was earlier this year. It was right before everything shut down before coronavirus. We managed to get there and do this mini summit before the world kind of shut down. So anyways, I called it rapid fire recruiting because this is going to be quick. It's going to be some main points. I'm going to start by showing you what my first year in the business looked like. Keep in mind with these numbers, some of you guys are going to have numbers that look higher in terms of recruitment. Some of you are going to have numbers that look lower in terms of recruitment, and that's okay. Like, these numbers are not a golden rule book by any means. It doesn't mean if you haven't been doing that or if you didn't look like that in your first year that you can't have a huge business, because a lot of people who have huge businesses have lower numbers or higher numbers. This is just my experience, okay? So I want to make sure that that's very clear. This doesn't necessarily mean anything's going to happen or not happen for sure. But this was my first year, my first full year in the business. So that purple column is my personally sponsored business partners. The next column is my team size, and then the next column is my group volume. And I just ask that you guys don't like screenshot or share this anywhere, simply because we are trying not to share a lot of this stuff right now with just the FTC and how fast we're growing. We're trying to keep numbers on kind of a down low, and I don't have any disclaimers written. So in March, my first month in the business, I added 2 business partners. And then you guys can see how it's pretty consistent in the first 12 months. There isn't a month where I had 7 new recruits or 15. And I like to point that out because oftentimes when we have these recruiting challenges, or Zaya Corporate puts out a really cool promo, like $100 off or $100 double the gift card or whatever it is, you're going to see people who recruit like crazy. And it can be a little bit deflating, and you're like, man, I can't do that. Those are huge numbers. So my point in wanting to share this is the power of consistency. So if you average out those numbers, that comes to 2.5 reps per month. Okay. So it's not anything wild. It's actually less than what the Zaya Golden handbook or whatever is that tells you 3 per month. It's less than that. And it still yielded a team after my first year in business of 156 people, doing just over $100,000 in group volume. And that, I think, was Zaya Executive, the Zaya Executive rank. So I like to share this information because I think if people have been in the business and have not been recruiting, I think there's tools in the toolbox available to you that we can encourage you and help you to start recruiting. I think everybody's got the same opportunity for sure. So if you haven't been and you see these numbers, I don't think it's too overwhelming. I think you look at these and say, okay, like between 1 and 3, that can be manageable. And a lot of that is mindset, which brings me to my next point. Um, so these are just kind of what the slides are about, but mindset, respecting your business, handling objections, how I use Facebook parties for recruiting and the percentage of business partners that came from that, and then some different opportunities to recruit. So first and foremost, I know this is going to seem kind of elementary. It's going to seem like something that you can't necessarily walk away with tonight and implement to recruit somebody tomorrow. But I think without these building blocks, without this foundation, the rest doesn't matter. So first of all, network marketing is the great equalizer. And I 100% believe that. I think that anybody can come into this business with any background and have as much success as the next person. I believe that 100% because it comes down to consistency and showing up. Those are the 2 things that it requires, truthfully. So I always tell people, hey, listen, like, we just have to make the decision if we want to be successful. When I started this business, there were definitely some things that I did wrong, and I'll share those. But what I did well was I made the decision. I knew that this was going to be successful for me, and it didn't matter how I got there. Like, I had to do the little things. And yeah, there was days that I wanted to quit, and there were days that were really hard, but I made the decision in my mind that this was going to be my vehicle to stay home and be able to do it without having to supplement with leaving the house. So you have to make the decision. Until you do that, nothing else in this business matters, because if you don't, you're just going to be stressed out all the time. The next thing that I like to explain to people is you have to have a servant mindset. I think in this business, oftentimes because so much of it is about rank advancing and going fast, it becomes a little bit inward naturally. And that's not a bad thing necessarily, but I think it's very important to practice keeping a servant mindset. And what I mean by that is there were months when I started where my attitude was, okay, like I need to recruit 2 people this month so I can rank advance. I need to add 3 reps to my team this month. I need to do this. Like I, and I was constantly like making it about my business, and that didn't feel good. And so I did some personal development. I started to practice this servant mindset, and everything kind of shifted. It became about, okay, wait a minute. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? What has this done for me? Like really gathering my experience and then thinking about, okay, who else can be positively and dramatically impacted by this opportunity? Or I know there are 3 people out there who need to know about this. I know that there's somebody else who's in a position like I was who should hear about this opportunity. So suddenly it becomes about giving and sharing the opportunity and having an abundant mindset rather than a scarcity one. So that mindset shift, and I remember pretty specifically when it happened in my business, was a huge game changer. It was absolutely huge. You're also going to find that with that mindset, you're recruiting better people. I'm not saying you have to go slower, but I do think you have to be intentional, and it has to come from a place of service. That's really, really important. The perception that you create about your business. I still need to work on this sometimes. There's 2 examples. So when I started, I was totally this top portion. I was like, well, in public, I was like, I don't know, like, I'm just going to see what happens. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's in network marketing. Like, oh, I didn't even want to say the words out loud. Or if somebody was like, cute, like, tell me about it. Or the clothes look really cute. I'd be like, yeah, like, don't feel obligated to buy, or I can give you my discount. Like it was horrible, the perception that I was creating. If any other brick and mortar business owner talked to me like that about their brand new business, I'd be like, well, they don't seem very excited. Like, they don't really seem like they care a ton if this works. Versus, yeah, I'm really excited to be a part of this. Or, hey, so you're doing that Zaya thing? Yeah, like I didn't think I would ever be in that industry, but I absolutely love it. And this company's growing like crazy. The products are the best. Like I had 2 kids and they do magical things. Be very cautious of the perception that you're creating about your business. Are you running it like a business? Are you treating it like one? Those are very, very important things, and people can feel those very quickly. And are you respecting your business? Are you really treating it like a business, or is this just something that's kind of like on the side? If it is, that's completely okay. But then you just have to be comfortable with, and you have to be okay with what comes from it, depending on kind of where you're at with it. So handling objections in recruiting, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. I always tell people, if you are getting objections, you're doing something right. So objections are a good thing. If you're hearing them, you are doing great. That means you're reaching out. It means you're having conversations. Really, an objection is just an opportunity for you to provide a solution. Okay, so it's an opportunity for you to listen to what they're saying, provide a solution, and then go from there. Usually, like if you get an objection that's like, hey, like, thanks for reaching out, but I'm absolutely not interested. I'm here to be a customer, and I'm just not interested at all. Sometimes there are hard no's, and we have to read that. But a lot of times, objections are maybe just something that's holding someone back, or a fear of theirs, or they're not near ready to say yes, so they're putting an objection out there. So objections are a good thing. It's opening a door for a conversation 99% of the time. So step 1, are we uncovering and acknowledging somebody's objection? When we hear it, are we making sure that we understand what their true objection is? So for example, somebody may say, hey, Leah, Like, yeah, that sounds great, but I don't know. I'm really uncomfortable with sales. I just don't think I'd be good at sales. I always use the feel, felt, found method. This is something that I was taught by a college professor, and you'll hear it a lot from other people who train on recruiting and even in just sales in general. The feel, felt, found method is really good because it's creating a relation with that other person, and it's telling them how you went through something similar and found a different result. So, for example, hey, Sarah, I get it. Like, I totally understand how you feel. I felt the same way, but what I found was that I'm just simply sharing that I love these clothes, like the clothes that I'm spending money on. I love them, and I'm just sharing it with other people. Um, Feel, felt, found on the starter kit cost. Somebody could say, hey, Leah, like, it sounds really great, but I don't know, like $295 for a starter kit, that's just a little bit steep for us right now. I say, hey, I understand how you feel. A lot of people feel that way right off the bat. When I started, it was actually $395. But so I understand how you feel. I felt the same way. It was an investment for us. I had just left my job, and $395 was a lot of money. But what I found was that we made it back quickly. And by putting together a personalized plan in the first 30 days, I made that money back and then some. And we would do the same for you. We'd create a very personalized plan in 30 days to make that investment back. It's one of my favorite, truly one of my top priorities for all of my new reps. Provide a solution. So tie it to their why. Step 2. This is something that I think we become usually just because we're excited when we're having a recruiting conversation, especially in the beginning. We're not always listening to their real why. So is the solution going back to their why? So for example, maybe Sam told me that, I'm really interested because it'd be great to pay off some student debt, but I just don't know about the starter kit costs. So now I've addressed the starter kit costs through the feel, felt, found, but I'm going to tie it back to her why and say, and Sam, I know that you mentioned paying off some of your student loan debt was a big thing. Like if you're comfortable, like let me know what you would like to do per month in paying that down. And I can show you kind of what that looks like in the Zaya business per month. So make it relatable. If it isn't, people are going to become tone deaf. If somebody's here because they want community and all we're talking about is money, they're going to be like the tone deaf. I'm kind of out like that. They're not going to soak it in. If somebody's here because they need to make $400 a month and all we're talking about is how much fun it is and like there's a community and we love the leggings and we're not addressing anything financially about the income, they're probably not going to see a lot of value in it. You have to make it personal to why that person is thinking about doing it. Get some form of commitment. So if you're talking to somebody on Facebook, make sure that you ask them for their phone number. If you're talking with somebody on Instagram, say, hey, you know what? I have some great information I'd like to send you. Can I actually add you on Facebook and tag you in a couple of videos so you can watch it on your own time? This is true reasons why I love this. Because once you start getting a yes, so that might be the first time that they say yes to you. So they're going in the direction of positive affirmation. Yes, right? They took the first step forward in saying yes for something. If they were on Instagram chatting with you and now they're in Facebook, it's way more personal. You can like their photos. You can learn more about their life. You can learn more about who they are. If you're on Facebook and now you're texting and you're voice messaging and you have their number, it's just a more personal relationship. So I always like to have 2 open lines of communication. And that way too, you can see how they respond better. So if they're not really responding on Instagram, but they're really responding in text, I'm going to do more in text or more follow-ups via text or vice versa. And then ask for the sale. Step 4. This one's scary as hell. This is hard. And I think this is where a lot of people get so close, but don't necessarily take it across the finish line at that last step, is asking for the sale or closing. So maybe you're talking to somebody for a while and they're kind of on the fence about it. You're going back and forth and back and forth. Again, 2 reasons why I love this one. You can be talking to somebody for 2 months and they're just putting you off or they're not sure. At some point, you just have to ask the question and either cut the cord, take all that energy you spent on that person and move on. Or the other reason I love it is because it makes it kind of just makes a decision happen, right? Like very rarely is someone going to come to you and be like, hey, I woke up and I decided today, like, I'm ready, let's do this. Sometimes we have to ask the question. And a lot of times people and prospects are waiting for us to ask. It feels good to get asked. So something that I do often is if we're talking and things seem like they're going really well and it's positive, I'll be like, hey, let's get you enrolled Friday so you can jump in on our weekend training. What do you think? Or if there's 10 days or 5 days left in a month and people are like, well, this is a horrible time to join because their kid doesn't go towards, their kid doesn't go towards the start of the new month or whatever. I love enrolling at the end of the month because my perspective is, hey, we've got 5 or 7 days left in this month. Let's get you enrolled now so your starter kit gets shipped. And then on the first of the month, we can we can hit the ground running. I can get you tagged in a few things. We'll do our Zoom call, make sure you're ready to roll. And on the first, we can get you up and running. I love that. So there's so many good ways to ask for the sale. And I think sometimes we just have to do it. Like we just got to be brave and take that step. And it's not easy. That's for sure. Know the facts. So when you're handling objections, oftentimes we just get a little emotional and we're like, well, I love it. It's the best thing I've ever done. Like, this is so great. And then you're kind of salesy. It's kind of coming across like a little bit emotionally based. I love using facts because it's objective information, right? You can't argue facts. I know that I can say, yeah, and or if someone's like, well, I don't know, it seems like, Zaya's saturated. Hey, that's a really good point. I hear what you're saying. However, let me tell you why that's not true. We grew 570% last year, and we're blowing that out of the water this year. We just expanded into our biggest warehouse of 95,000 square feet. We just this past month had our biggest growth ever, and it's happening every month. So we're just entering this hyper growth phase. The other reason I love this is because you can't argue facts. Like if I'm talking to somebody and I'm like, 50% of our executive leadership team is women. We had our first international expansion in January of 2019. These are from March, so they need to be updated, but 150 employees, 30 million in commissions paid in the first 35 months, which has to be way higher now. And then we sell more on a Wednesday now than we did in an entire month 1 year ago. I also like to say, if you guys have been around for a while, or if you haven't, you can still hear what I'm saying. What we did in the first 2 years since I've been here was awesome. But what's happened in the last couple months is insane. The rate people are promoting, like the rate that teams are growing, like that growth percentage month over month is so high. So these are really good to know. I would always have 2 to 3 facts in the back of your pocket. You don't have to know all of these right away, but have some in your back pocket, right? If you were talking to like a franchise owner of a Dunkin' Donuts, and they didn't know any of this stuff and they just opened their business, you'd be like, like, so how many employees do you have? I don't really know. How many warehouses do you have? I don't really know. Anything. How much did you grow last year? I don't really know. It doesn't seem really legit. So I always have some of these in my back pocket. Just write 2 down and put it on your desk or put it in the notes section on your phone, just so that you get used to them. Memorize 2. That's a great place to start. But this is good information because it cannot be argued and it's really powerful. Why you? This is something personal for you guys to figure out, not me, not this slide, but really like, why should people join your team? And that's something that you've got to sit and reflect on a little bit. If you've recruited people before, figure out like, what did I do good? What didn't I feel good about? Like, what's my strong suit? Why do I actually enjoy mentoring people? And you'll kind of create your own little story. And that's really important. One of the things that I always tell people is I'm a numbers person. So I'm like, we're going to get your investment back and then you're going to start making money. Like, we're here for you. Obviously, like, we want to have a good time and I'll speak to their why and all that jazz. But like, one of my priorities is that we make that investment back in the first 30 days and we have a very specific roadmap. Another thing is that we have I always tell people, we have so many resources, like you'll go blue in the face. Like, you won't be able to use them all. So rather than just jumping in, we'll kind of figure out what you feel comfortable with, maybe where you need some more resources. And we can give you very personalized information and personalized resources and training. But you can immerse yourself every night into stuff if you want it. I wouldn't recommend it, but there's a ton of resources. It's everywhere. and then again, serve to their why. So make sure that you're listening to why they're interested in doing this and how you can mentor into that. Facebook parties, this is a really, really good one. There's, I already can call it for sure 2 other people on this call who are better at this than I am by a landslide. But I think it was 73% of my business, my immediate business partners, came from Facebook parties. And the reason that is because they're being exposed to the close. They probably already have product if they're hosting a pop-up for me. So when I'm in those parties, I do 3 main things. I set an expectation. So right away, I'm going to tell my hostess that my average event does $600. I want to set that expectation. I'm not just going to say, oh, like it could do 200 or 6 or 1,000. I'm going to say, hey, my average is 600. So that's what we're going to shoot for. Constant communication. I let them know on the first order place, like, hey, Cheryl, the first order was placed. Awesome. I'm really excited for you. Just so there's some excitement, right? And then maybe on the second or third order, I'll reach out again and be like, hey, you're at $283. I don't know math that fast in my head, but we're only X amount of dollars, 300 and some dollars away from hitting that $600 goal. This is really good because as they get closer to the goal, they're, hey, we're $90 away from your goal of $600. More often than not, they're going to say something like, oh, hey, I had somebody at work who was interested. Like, let me reach out to her. Or my neighbor wanted to buy it for his wife. Let me connect with him. So all of a sudden they're kind of they're excited because they're almost at this goal, and they're kind of like helping you out as a rep, right? Like they're kind of doing part of the work. And then eventually I ask, I'll say, hey, Cheryl, I don't know if you've ever considered this, but your market really seems to love it. At this point, you have a $65 credit back towards the enrollment kit. Have you ever considered something like this? You guys, that's such an easy ask. It's not invasive. It's not rude. It doesn't come across like, join my team. I know people use that, and maybe it's great. I don't personally use that because I don't like to make it about mine at all. And I'm sure I've said it. You could probably look back in some of my social media and find it somewhere, but I try not to. But I do like that where that's kind of that genuine ask. So hostesses are, I would guess, probably the number one source of new recruits in the business. And then the audience in the party, are you doing live videos? When I do my first live video, I explain very briefly who I am, why I joined, go through how the party's going to work, do all that stuff. Ask your upline if you're not comfortable with that. I private message people, and then I make sure the people who purchased are in my VIP group, and that's customer follow-up. We had a call on that a couple weeks ago, so if you want anything on that, let me know. But that's pretty much it. That's all I think I'm going to share from this. But there is a lot of ways to recruit. When I started, you guys, I did a couple things, 3 things, and oh, there's 3 people in the waiting room. I did 3 things that I know some of you guys have heard a million times, but the first thing I did was made a list of 10 people, not 100, not 200, which if you do, that's fine. That you're probably going to grow way quicker. But I made a list of 10 people who I genuinely wanted to do this business with. Like I genuinely wanted to spend time with and travel with. So they were people in my warm market, obviously. And I reached out to them and said, hey, listen, let me know if you have a half hour this week. I'd love to grab a cup of coffee and tell you what I'm doing. I didn't know hardly anything at that point, but what I did know was why I joined. And I joined because this was a brand new company. It still is a brand new company. I loved the product, and I knew if I was going to do something in the network marketing industry, you better believe I'm going to pick an organization that's going to have natural momentum behind me, because I'm going to work my ass off. So if there's a company that just has naturally a rising tide because they're young, they're new, I want that. I want that to help elevate my business. So I sat down with those people and I was like, I don't have all the answers. I can get you any answers that you need or that we need to find out, but this is going to be a really big opportunity. And I still say those exact words in the present tense. So I did that. I think, I don't know, maybe 3 of the 10 enrolled, but it was very personal. I didn't do it over text. I didn't do it over Messenger. Like it was either on the phone, on FaceTime, or in person. I treated those people with white gloves, and it makes a huge difference. You guys all heard that stat from Summit. What is a stat? I always forget it, you guys. 34 times more likely. You're 35 times more likely to close a conversation or get a sale or get a business partner in person than you are over the internet. And that's because over the internet, we start to talk about ourselves more. And that was something that was taught at Summit from one of our guest speakers. It was really good. What did I do? Second, I had a lot of Facebook parties. I was doing 4 to 5 a month because I wanted exposure, network marketing. A lot of times people say my market is dried up. I don't know where to go next. Throw a party on it. Have an event because you're going to meet someone who you never met before, who might be your next hostess, who's going to open up the door to the next group of people. That's why it's called network marketing. So if you feel stuck, book a party. Like I wish there was a magic answer, but that's just the answer. And I know when you feel stuck, the last thing you want to do is book a party. I get it. But I did that. And so that was huge. And then the last thing that I did, and I was always having conversations. Like in the beginning, I was reaching out to 2 to 3 people in my warm market probably per day, which was a little bit uncomfortable. And then the last thing that I did cold messages. And I really don't have any feeling on them one way or the other. I did 10 in the morning and 10 at night when I was in bed when I first started pretty religiously. The funnel for cold messages is huge. Like your list of 10 people that you know well, it's going to be like this. You don't need to put a lot in that funnel to get something. And I shouldn't say you don't need a lot. It's still a lot of work, but your funnel's smaller. And then Facebook parties and then cold messages is like, you can send a ton of cold messages. It's going to take a little bit longer to get a yes. And that's normal. I don't really do cold messages anymore. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. It's a personal thing. I just did it because I knew other people were doing it. Chrissy Tager, who I don't know what her team, I don't know, we're all part of Chrissy's team, but it's massive. And she built her business purely on cold messages. So I knew, even if I didn't love it, I respected it because I saw it working. And I, at that point, like I said, my back was against the wall. I was going to make it work. So I was like, I'm going to try it. And a couple of key business partners actually did come from cold messages. So I didn't also just send like a hey girl message. I always use their first name. I always try to find something in common. I thought that was really important. The hey girl ones are the worst. When there's no like concrete stuff to follow, I'd be like, hey Shauna, I saw your Instagram profile. I also have 2 kids with one on the way. And anyways, I stay at home like you do. And I just started with this brand new company and I'd love to share some more information. But I try to keep it personal. They take a little bit longer, but it's worth it. So those are kind of the 3 main things that I did right away. But moreover, I think keeping a really strong mindset, building up resiliency, knowing that every single no you hear is closer to a yes are all things that are very important when it comes to recruiting. Where can we find this number? The information about the company, I can post it and share it with other people in here who have team pages. I just want to make sure that it's updated. Let me, you know what? I'm going to make a list of the ones that I think are accurate and I'll just text them to Zach to make sure that they're kosher and look good. And then I'll post them on our team page and share with the leaders on here who have their team pages. But I need to write that down. So otherwise I'll promise it and not do it. And I just want to run it past him, given all the FTC stuff. So fun fact, there was I don't know, some leadership call at some point. And recently, the lieutenant general attorney, I think his title was, called the Bradleys from Utah, called the Bradleys and met with them because we're having such explosive growth in a pandemic where most people are obviously, businesses are being suppressed, and Zai is blowing up. He was like, hey, let's get together, make sure your I's are dotted, T's are crossed. You know, people are going to start asking how you're doing this. This is amazing. And so I know they buttoned up a couple policies and procedures after that. So I'll just run them past and make sure that we get them to you guys. I did call. Did I actually call you, Shauna? That's funny. That's true. And it's weird. Like when your phone's ringing, you're like, I don't really feel like answering this. Like a lot of people hate the phone. But it shows that you care. Like people are getting messages from a lot of people about a lot of opportunities. Very few people are picking up the phone or sending a voice message. It's easy to try to get low hanging fruit, but that's what you're going to get if you do it that way. So be very intentional and really try to make it personal. Okay, do you guys have any questions? Is there anything that people in here would like to add about recruiting? Or is there anything that you're like, I need more information on, I'm not comfortable in this area? Let me know and we can get you personalized information or training, but now would be a good time to ask too if you guys have any questions or if there's anything you want to add. Let me just check the messages. Okay, cool. Well, that's 5 minutes over. So thank you guys for hanging out. If you need anything, let me know or ask your upline. And I don't know what the call next week is about. I don't remember, but I'll post it. I think we have a guest speaker yet this month and then a directors and up call. So have a great October, you guys. Take advantage of the momentum because it's super high and there's a lot of fun stuff happening. So have a good night and let me know if you guys need anything.